Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, as we approach 1,000 episodes with tech leaders, entrepreneurs, startup founders from all over the world, some listeners who are looking for answers in life will often ask me, Neil, what traits shape these leaders and what makes them? What is the secret to their success? And the answer that I often say, I've got to say this, is life. In some ways, it feels like our life is almost mapped out for us. And although we all have free will, of course, just when you think you have everything worked out, you've got your goals in place, you've got your life meticulously planned out for the next 5 years, boom, life or the universe throws a big curveball in your direction. This is something that I know all too well, and people that know me will know exactly what I'm talking about there. And today's guest has an amazing story to share that I urge everyone to listen to. I know because I throw 7 episodes a week at you, it can be difficult to listen to them all, but trust me, this is one I think that would appeal to everyone. Because today's guest is Ben Jones, who was just like you and me. He was just a normal guy working in finance. And one day, a dramatic turn of events put him on a very different course in life. And he's now using technology to make a difference and prove that e-commerce and environmental sustainability can work together. So hold on tight while I beam your earballs all the way to Toronto in Canada so we can have a quick conversation with Ben Jones from Ohis, who's going to share his inspirational story. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Ben. Can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. So I'm Ben Jones. I'm the founder and CEO of Ohis, and we're building basically the Amazon Prime Now for everybody else. In terms of my background, I grew up in the UK and originally started working in finance, in fixed income sales and trading, but then ended up moving to the US to go to Stanford, where I went to the GSB, it's a business school, and founded Ohis during school. And now what we do at Ohis is we're a micro warehousing platform that's taking unused spaces within cities and turning them into fulfillment centers for e-commerce. So we all know what traditional warehousing looks like, big buildings, outside of cities where goods are stored. But I think what we're doing at Ohis that's very, very interesting is we're completely flipping warehousing on its head. And rather than having big warehouses outside of the city, we're creating micro warehouses within cities, which allows e-commerce companies to get inventory much, much closer to their end customers, enabling them to do same day and next day delivery for very, very low cost. So that's essentially who I am and what we're building.
I love that line there, Amazon Prime for everyone else. But behind every company, of course, is an interesting backstory. And that's something that I'd love to explore on this Daily Tech podcast. So I've got to ask, what is the story behind Ohis? And can you remember that moment that put you on this journey?
Yeah, so it was actually a very personal experience that set me on this path. Obviously, being in finance, moving to logistics and operations tech is a big shift. But really, I had a very bad back injury when I was in the UK that paralyzed me from the neck down for a period of time. And thankfully, I'm fully recovered now, but it was a long recovery period. And during that time, it was a good 16 months or so, during which time I was very, very restricted. I couldn't walk very far. I couldn't carry anything. I was largely homebound. And as a consequence, I ended up having to order everything online. I couldn't just go down the shops to buy something. And it became a huge frustration of mine that I knew if I could just go down the shops, I could go buy something and get it that day. But if I order online, it takes 3 to 5 days to get to me. And that just struck me as being absurd. Like, e-commerce is supposed to be about convenience and speed and ease. But actually the logistics system and the fulfillment networks really meant it was none of those things. And so that personal experience really highlighted to me the problem. And I realized that you could buy everything through Amazon, and in the UK at the time, Amazon was already same day, but every other direct to consumer brand was 3 to 5 day. And so that was really that pain point that I experienced myself is what set me on this path of starting Ohis.
Wow, that's incredible. 16 months is a hell of a long time. Do you mind me asking how you did it? What happened there?
Yeah, I wish it was a better story, but it was a chiropractor cracking my back. So I'd had a bad back and went to see a chiropractor to try and get it fixed, and that manipulation didn't go very well. Let's put it like that. So it was a very scary experience, but in a lot of ways, it's put me on a new path that's so much better, and kind of reframed my thinking. I realized that I wanted to do something that really did make a difference to the world. I didn't want to waste my time doing something that I didn't feel had a real purpose. And so, all good things come out of these bad experiences, and certainly it's set me on a path that I'm enjoying much more than I was before.
I have been wanting to visit a chiropractor myself, but you've put me off completely now.
Don't do it.
But seriously, yeah, but on a serious note, though, it is kind of interesting, isn't it, when you look back and join up the dots, how sometimes, although it's just not a good way for it to happen, but it's almost like it happened for a reason. It's completely changed the direction of your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew I always wanted to go to business school, but that really gave me the motivation to say that actually I realized that I wasn't in love with finance as a career, and that there were other things that I could do that would have more impact in the world, and hopefully what we're doing at Ohis will change a lot of things and make the world, well, it's a bit cliche, but make the world a better place for a lot of people.
Fantastic. So what kind of problems do you solve for your customers, Anno? And with Ohis, what makes it unique from so many other solutions out there?
So I think what makes us unique at Ohis is our focus on micro warehousing, and we're reimagining what it means to be a warehouse. And so through our micro warehouses, we can do all of the traditional third-party logistic provider activities, so normal 3PL activities, but also we enable same-day and next-day delivery at very low cost, often cheaper than 3 to 5 day delivery. But as soon as you take inventory out of a centralized warehouse in the middle of the country and start spreading it into micro locations within cities and within multiple cities, you need a huge amount of technology to make that work. And I think really what's unique about Ohis is the tech that we're building that really makes the whole system flow very smoothly and takes away a lot of the operational burden from the operations manager within e-commerce companies. And what we found is, and I'm sure maybe you've spoken to some e-commerce founders as part of this podcast, that often operations the operations manager within e-commerce companies is really the forgotten child of the business. Direct consumer brands are very focused on building their brand and marketing and sales, and operations is the kind of inconvenient thing that they have to do to make that happen. And so really the user that we're selling to is generally that ops manager, and our technology really helps enable this new experience for their customers, but also makes life so much easier for the operations manager and just simplifies the whole system for them. So I think that micro warehousing and that simplicity is what makes us unique.
Now, like I said a few moments ago, you are motivated by using technology to make the world a better place. And at Ohis, you're committed to making e-commerce more environmentally friendly and sustainable. So I've got to ask, can e-commerce and environmental sustainability, can they work together?
Yes, they can. It's certainly hard. And I think a lot of consumers don't really realize the impact that e-commerce has on the environment. Until I started looking into this space, I had no idea about the environmental impact of shopping online. So one thing that we realized was that for every delivery done using a conventional truck, every single parcel that you buy online that's delivered by a conventional truck emits the same amount of CO2 as charging your mobile phone for 3 weeks. So it's very, very carbon intensive, sending individual packages to your front door. And secondly, e-commerce uses a huge amount of packaging. And I'm sure you've had that experience when, maybe it's over Christmas where you're ordering lots of stuff online and you just end up with all these cardboard boxes stacked up at home. And within the US, the amount of cardboard that's consumed for e-commerce alone every single year is equivalent to 1 billion trees. So there's a huge amount of packaging that's involved in e-commerce and a huge amount of CO2 that's emitted as a result of the deliveries that you're getting every day. And the trouble is as customers are demanding faster and faster delivery, particularly in the US where the distances are so great, it requires less and less environmentally friendly ways of delivering them. So, often now if you order something for 2-day delivery, often it's flown on a plane to, from the middle of the country in the US to the coast, which is, if you're in New York, for example, and that increases the CO2 emissions for that parcel significantly. So what we're doing at Ohis is, really it was from the ground up that we wanted to build not just a better warehousing and fulfillment network, but a much, much more sustainable one. And so what we're doing that really helps reduce that environmental impact is we use predominantly bike couriers to do all of our deliveries. So by having inventory already in cities, we're able to connect through to bike couriers to do the delivery. And because we're not putting things on a conventional truck, everything's hand delivered. We're able to reduce packaging significantly by putting all the e-commerce orders in nice shopping bags. So, paper recyclable shopping bags, it feels like it's just come from a store, but it's much, much more sustainable and significantly reduces packaging wastage. So those are some of the things that we're doing to create this system that's much more sustainable. And we're finding that we're getting a lot of interest from e-commerce brands that really have a focus on sustainability. And a lot of brands now are waking up to that environmental damage that e-commerce causes and looking to work with partners like us to reduce that and create a more sustainable e-commerce network.
It's so refreshing to hear that, especially if anyone that shops at Amazon will know the smaller the item that you buy, the bigger the box that it comes in. It just seems insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's crazy.
Is there a story behind your mission to prove that e-commerce and environmental sustainability work together? Or what motivated you to go on this mission? I think it's something that's increasingly, I think we're all being awoken to, and it's becoming all our responsibility. But what lit that spark with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that everyone needs to be focused on. And, any business leader today starting a business, in my opinion, should have sustainability and environmental concerns at the forefront of starting a business. I think consumers are increasingly aware of the environmental issues that we're facing and want to make better choices, but often it really needs business to enable them to make those choices. And so, the way that we're building our system is that we're enabling customers to choose a more environmentally friendly option. I think what's important is business enabling consumers to make that choice. And so, really, for me, it was always been something I've been focused on. And there's really a founding principle of our company to allow consumers to make that better choice.
And as someone that's working right in the heart of this space at the moment, and you're seeing all the changes and also the way consumers are thinking differently, what kind of trends are you seeing at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think in the logistics and fulfillment space and logistics tech, there are fundamental changes happening to the industry at the moment. Fulfillment and warehousing has been very old school, and generally has had pretty poor technology, hasn't really been tackled in the same way that other industries have by the tech industry. And we're starting to see that now today with companies like Ohis and a ton of other great companies tackling different parts of the logistics chain with tech-enabled solutions that create a better system. And so I think we're really just at the beginning of that trend. I think Q1 of 2019 was logistics tech was the highest funded sector by VCs in Q1. And the way that we see ourselves at Ohis being very different is we're doing to the warehousing market kind of like what Airbnb did to the hotel industry. So, if you rewind to pre-Airbnb, there were lots of companies trying to optimize the existing hotel networks. They were putting better technology at checkout or check-in. They were creating platforms to fill unused rooms within hotels. And then Airbnb came along and just created an entirely new, essentially, hotel network that was just better. And we see ourselves doing the same at Ohis with warehousing. So there are a bunch of companies trying to optimize the existing warehousing network, but we don't think it's fit for purpose once you're in this next day and same day era. And so the trend that we're tapping into is this move towards instant gratification and the changing infrastructure that's required to enable it.
And people are often talking about how Amazon is eating the world and taking over retail. So what's it like being a startup in this space with such large competition that you're up against?
Yeah, so we actually don't really see Amazon as competition to us. They're obviously a huge force in the e-commerce world, but really we see them as an enabler in the space. They really drive consumer expectations. And so, when Amazon a few months ago moved to 1-day Prime within the US, everyone else realized they needed to offer the same thing. And Amazon has such power to shift consumer expectations. But there is a huge market out there of direct-to-consumer brands that don't really want to sell through Amazon. It's not cool to sell through Amazon. You are limited in terms of the data insights you get. And traditionally, Amazon has then used the data to create their own label products that they then price at cheaper than your product if you're selling through the platform. So I think there will always be a big market outside of Amazon. And, you look at the success of Shopify. Recently, I think, it was announced last week that Shopify is now the second biggest seller in terms of gross merchandise value behind Amazon in terms of the platform. So I think there will always be opportunities to provide alternatives to Amazon. And really the benefit of being a startup in the space is that we're not hamstrung by decisions made in the past. So a good example is what we've just been talking about, is being able to build in sustainability and environment and being environmentally friendly from the ground up of our network. It's something that is very hard for Amazon to completely change its system now to go back to being more sustainable. So I think there are huge advantages of being a startup in the space, in that you can be more nimble, you're not hamstrung by those decisions in the past, and you can take advantage of the huge market that's out there of people that don't really want to be selling their goods through Amazon.
And for any startup founders listening, they'll know all too well about the roller coaster ride of tremendous highs and tremendous dips along the way. So what have been your biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in building Ohio today?
Yeah, so we're still obviously very early in our journey. But it's, I think every startup founder will tell you that it is so much harder than you expect. And I think really the biggest challenge for me was bootstrapping the business for the first really 9 months of our growth. I should have raised money sooner than I did, but decided to try and build it, by bootstrapping, which in hindsight, in a market where you're looking after e-commerce companies' inventory and providing technology around that inventory, it's a hard thing to do. So I found myself in this catch-22 situation where e-commerce companies wouldn't work with me without us having more employees that could look after their inventory and make sure that we could provide a good experience for them. And I couldn't hire employees without investment to and money to pay them, and then I couldn't get investment without customers. So you end up in this triangle of needing these three things to come together, and we've managed it. And thankfully we ended up pulling those things together. We've got an incredible team now. And we're growing really quickly. We're onboarding roughly a new e-commerce company every week, and we've hit that inflection point. But really, by far, the hardest piece was those first 9 months of trying to pull those three threads together to get this off the ground. And I'm sure there'll be, like I say, we're very early still in our journey. I'm sure there'll be a ton of challenges to come. But that's been the hardest part for me at the moment.
And it's true, you are in your early days at the moment, but like you said, you're growing incredibly quickly. So looking towards the future, what do the next 2 years look like at Ohis? And is there anything else you can share with me about that road ahead?
Yeah, sure. I caution it in that 2 years is a long time and who knows what will happen, but what I can tell you what I hope will happen. Like you say, we've really hit an inflection point now which is really exciting, where we're growing really quickly and scaling out our product. And so in the next 2 years, my expectation and my hope is that we'll expand our technology and our fulfillment platform to all major US cities, and as well as a number of the smaller ones, and really enable consumers, you and I, to in 2 years' time, hopefully we'll be all able to shop using Ohis technology with all of our favorite direct-to-consumer brands and receive whatever it is that we want that same day. That's our vision, and that's what we'll be working for. We'll be working with hundreds of brands across the US, I think we can fundamentally change the way people think about warehousing and fulfillment, and demonstrate that the platform that we're building is really the natural evolution of the existing warehouse and fulfillment network. So that's my hope for the next 2 years. Everything seems to be going in the right direction right now, but I'm sure we'll hit road bumps along the way. I'd be interested to listen back to this in 2 years' time and see where we're at.
Oh, we'll have to get you on. Well, not in 2 years. I think we should get you back on next year and see how that journey's going. Keep you accountable to those goals as well.
I hope so. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
But anyone that wants to keep in touch with you and follow your journey themselves, what's the best way listeners can find you online and equally follow you on Twitter, LinkedIn, or ask your team a question if they do have any?
Yeah, sure. So our website, where they can find out more about us, is shipohi.com. So SHIP Ohi, which is OHI.com. And they can reach out to us at info@shipohi.com. We are reasonably active on Instagram and Twitter as well. If you would like to follow us, it's Ohi_now. We'd love to hear from any of our listeners that are interested in what we're doing or interested in working with us.
Well, after, I think, nearly 1,000 episodes that we've recorded here, people often ask me, everyone that's creating these businesses and making a difference, what is it that inspired them? Are there any trends? And one of the things that I've noticed is it's often a big life event, a problem that people encounter, a health issue, or a life-changing event that just makes them reevaluate what they're doing and then go out to do something different. So hearing about your routine visit to a chiropractor that actually ended up leaving you paralyzed for 16 months. And then on the other side of that, you're aiming to make the world a better place. It's just a fantastic story, and one that I'm going to remember for a long time. So thanks for coming on and sharing it today. And I meant what I say. We'll get you back on next year and see how you're getting on.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It's been great to chat to you.
Wow, what a great guy, and what an inspirational story. I think we're all guilty of, in some sense, sleepwalking our way through life or thinking that we've got everything meticulously planned. But today's story highlights how sometimes things happen for a reason and leave us wanting to deliver a greater purpose in this world. This is something that I really get from the bottom of my heart, and I genuinely hope that you enjoyed this story as much as I did today. But yes, I am a guy that loves tech, but I love how it's enhancing people's dreams and ability to create businesses too. So I'm curious, if you have a life story or a life event that dramatically changed your path, and it almost felt like the universe has just gave you a little nudge in the right direction, please let me know. I genuinely want to hear from you. So please email me directly, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, get me on LinkedIn at Neil C. Hughes, and the same on Instagram, or you can fill out a little contact form over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. So I feel somewhat inspired by Ben's story today, so I'm going to get out there and have another run. If anybody's listening out there and thinks, I'd love to run, but I just can't, or I'm too overweight, the Couch Potato to 5K app is just phenomenal. You start off running 1 minute at a time, and believe you me, I could not run for 1 minute when I started the program. 8-minute runs with a 3-minute rest in between, and then 2 minutes and 3 minutes. It gradually builds you up. And honestly, a month later, and you see yourself running 3 mile, you think, wow, isn't the human body a wonderful piece of tech itself? So I'm going to go out there on week 4 of Couch Potato to 5K, and I'll be back tomorrow with another guest. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.